Good morning, class. Welcome to Homeroom with Unc and Market Monk. Good morning, P. How was your week?
It was good. Just a lot of I kind of kept my list small. Still more selling of a couple smalls that popped, but then I'm just really kind of locked in on LLY and MSTR and haven't really needed to venture outside of those too much on the in the option world. And earnings, doing pretty good. Kind of more maintenance. I haven't had the overnight, you know, $50 to $1,000 move. You can't expect those all the time, but I've had enough where that little pile's doing just fine. So good week for me overall.
Nice, nice. Yeah, it's a good start with the week with Amba, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Started
yeah.
the week off real good there, and a lot of I don't want to say the newer or the IPO list stocks that we have, but a lot of those fresh stories. I guess that's the best way to put it. I didn't pre-write the script here, so uh, but like SoFi and PSNY good are really good last week. I mean, SoFi we got down a couple weeks ago almost to CEO buys again, and that's
Yeah.
up. I mean, depending on where you bought, if you got as long as you got in before six, you're up 30% already. Good on that. Intel is fun. I'm liking the conversation. Me and secondary are going to retire on some Intel. Uh,
Yeah.
um, and then Affirm too. Affirm just grinding away. Kind of got the Carvana look to it a little bit. Not that
Yeah, no, no new buys there for me, but just, and I
just
don't have a lot, but what I
exactly,
have did fine. So
and that's exactly where I'm at with a lot of those names. I mean, PSNY was a good rinse and repeater. Maybe a little bit more of that, just because the price is so cheap. I mean, you get a lot. If you go to the candy store, you get a lot of 5-cent candies. That's how that works. But the other ones, yeah, just I think outside of SoFi of that list I mentioned, not really large positions. So, but still, I mean, if you have a couple hundred shares of something, or even 100 shares of something, and it goes up $2, it's a good little play, and it's really safe as far as holding through this kind of quiet market where right now the biggest concern. I mean, what I'm looking at every day, my scanners and my the stuff that I filter the market with is just empty. It's just low volume, grinding up or grinding in consolidation in a lot of plays right now.
I mean, that was maybe two of the slowest days in collabs we've had.
Yeah,
And it wasn't because I wasn't looking, but I just, I know what I do, and I'm not gonna just, really try to force it if it's not there. And then, a lot of that stuff did drop, and then, kind of set back up, and then, I ended the week with some decent pops and flow into the 3 day weekend. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you there, but I'm not seeing, and we'll talk about that when we get to SPY, but I'm not seeing that aggressive 1-2 punch of puts that I talk about. It's still just not there. So, um, the selling kind of bleed out, you know, puke and rally, pop and fade. Just staying flat. Kind of what I see.
yeah. I mean, not to go on a too big of a rant here, not to mention our favorite app, but
Yeah,
for the most part, like the markets in cycles, and I guess to go to our favorite sport analogy, you don't always swing the same. Like depending on where you are in the count, you can't home run swing every time. And I mean, we've talked about it. I mean, there was a while there where it was just this sector, just buy them, just buy them, and you'll
yeah,
do all right. With if you buy these five, three of them are going to be winners. One's going to be flat. One's not going to do good. Pretty much
yeah.
that was like a quarter and a half. And lately we've turned to all right, we're getting high, and there's not a lot of volume, and you have to switch your swing a little bit in those types of markets. And I mean, I haven't done a midweek report in a while, and I dropped one. I think it was Monday
Yeah.
night, might have been Tuesday night, and it was just basically saying like, There's nothing here. Like, just find something to do for 5 minutes because trading will kill you right now, especially if your options. And then Nvidia flat. I mean, that was just
Um,
where we were, and you have to like switch how you're driving depending on traffic, right? And that's the same thing with the market. You can't just go 85 all the time, and the market just doesn't give you that condition every single time. And right
what?
now
Yeah,
we're just
yeah.
at a slow spot. We're just really at a slow spot, and I think even when we do pick up, we're going to get, I mean, just because of where charts are, we're still going to get a big buyer and seller rotation because people are going to be taking profit. So even I think when volume pick up, people are going to get washed around a little bit. So you're going to see it coming. You're going to see the action come back in the market, in my opinion. Sorry for going long there, dude.
Yes. No, that's good. Yeah, I mean, Nvidia, it rallied. I suck at percentages, but about 40% from that disastered Bank of Japan morning to into earnings. Where do you think you're going to take that thing through earnings? I mean, so on
Yeah,
the one hand, it was attractive for options for people because they're cheaper now because they split. So I mean, I get that. You didn't need to spend $1,000 to lotto um, Nvidia, but like I said, it dropped at its lowest point, I think 7% or something after hours. Recovered to about 3%, 2%, 1%, then dip, then drop back down during the day. So that the trade there after the earnings was fine if you wanted to do options, but into it, I mean, you just that IV just ate you up, and we said it. And if you wanted a semiconductor, uh, AMBO was right there. SMCI to the downside was there, uh, and and yeah. So I mean, no, I'm totally with you on that. The notion that we're going to have full send semiconductors anytime soon, very skeptical of that. But there's great setups within the sector, and Intel kind of was the one. I mean, ridiculous its fundamentals and all that shit. So I mean, it was and you buy it and you don't know if it's gonna be 6 months from now, or you know what, it popped 9% in a day. Great. I mean, you already have it, so you're not chasing it. That's the biggest part with something like that.
yeah, and just kind of get back to like the motion of the ocean. Like that there is a time where you can just full port semiconductors. There is a time. It's not all the time though, and you should really be able to read the room and
Yeah.
figure out when that
Well,
time is. And
does AVGO, is it sitting at 1200 pre split, $120,
yeah,
120 something? Yeah, I'm buying it there. I'm trading it if it's 150. I'm not just gonna load up at that spot.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but even if you look at maybe like the last 2 months, we were still with most things looking for the extra thesis or the extra check. It's been that way for a while. So I mean, it's not like we were just full porting 2 weeks ago, whole sectors. we were.
Yeah.
It's just that window is still tightening, and um, not to pivot or too much or get into politics and government stuff, but I mean the what the market's going to move on or wait for next is those rates for sure. And I really think it's not going to be like imminent. It's definitely going to be that rotation of buyers and sellers that just take a couple weeks to figure out which way we really are going to go. And I think that's why you don't see a lot of, like you're saying, that 1-2 punch that you need to see right now.
Um, yeah. No. Yeah. Totally. And the the people trying to swing spy puts, just going to get eaten alive if it's even September especially, but even October. It's just too soon. I mean, I think you want to do that. I don't like doing it, but if you did want to do that, it's got to be March or later, because I mean, the thesis is, and the possibility is that they cut rates and a lot of volatility in that could be a significant sell off right after that, and then and then a recovery. I mean, that's very plausible that that would happen to me, just because there's so much leverage they could clear out. It'd be fairly easy for them to do. So yeah, I think that that could definitely happen. But I think what you want, and I mean, we saw it with solar, is who is desperate for rate cuts and
Yeah.
beaten down and oversold, and with just range back to just some basic relief. And
Well,
to me, it's real estate and solar, especially home builders and real estate,
sure.
and
And
that's what
well,
I've been
and
on.
I mean, a lot of the Twitter sphere and the kids, like, are probably gonna leave because we're gonna have to talk some boring shit here. But like the people don't look at the rate cut is also. I mean, yeah, it's good for people in the financial side, but it's also like signaling to the market that we're gonna have a pullback in activity. So like, yeah, you get money at 1% cheaper, but we think we're gonna have 4% less business activity across the market, or GDP is gonna be down 0.4% or something like that. Like that is also not a positive on that side. And you have to find out what businesses that aren't going to take that hit, and I mean, you're seeing it right now with a lot of like the retail, even with the low bar, retail's still kind of missing. um
Yeah, Dollar General disaster. I mean, biggest loss in their history, in
yeah.
in a day, and it's not one that I think you just jump right back into. Um, I got Dollar General this week. They tend to be a little better than Dollar General, even if you've been in a store. Not that I'm a dollar store connoisseur, but Dollar General is kind of a better better store to be in. But yeah, I mean, so the consumers kind of strained, credit cards maxed out, and so there's a lot of negative narratives about that. Labor market is kind of looming and out there. But again, using that macro as your big crash thesis just isn't going to work, because it just comes down to you know who's selling, and the selling is moving shit around rather than sidelining. Nobody wants to be
Yes.
sidelined right now.
Yes.
So that's why my my thesis is, kind of get boring. Why, an all time high chart for paint is extremely bullish, and so I'm like, okay, I liked it more $100 ago, but I also am gonna notice that and talk about it, maybe even trade it. But yeah, so that kind of stuff, or Pepsi, or whoever. So there's gonna be a lot of that going on, and then the other thing too, it seems counterintuitive maybe to some people, but um, there's small caps, there's companies that probably aren't going to be around in 5 years, but that stock's going to probably move 40% or more, just given where it's set up. So going to be a lot of runs in small still here and there,
Yeah,
but
just like,
not I don't go IWM and go buy out of the money calls on that. It's not the whole thing. It's names here and there.
yeah, one of the reason I love larger time frames is just it shows things that other charts will never show, especially your minute charts. And the last time SPY didn't touch an SMA on the yearly was 2020. um,
Yeah.
and it hasn't touched it this year. So, and let's say the 50's at like $500. But if you follow along here, this time last year we said something about from now until January going to be the bottom. Don't know when. It was November, and we've had two big drawbacks since then, in April and here early in the summer. But I mean, if you look at that chart, even from a year on a weekly, it is one of the most healthiest charts out there. And I mean, those pullbacks are gifts in retrospect, but they're needed just to continue a trend. And you can see they never really broke trend because they haven't touched a 50 in over a year. I mean, who wouldn't want to be invested in that a chart that looks like that on the yearly? And so pullback for me, pullback is it's kind of needed. Um, I have a I guess part of my system of what to do in pullbacks. It's real simple. You look for
Yeah,
stuff that's holding up, and you look for stuff that's going against the trend. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. Um, but I mean, I think we continue to do that. And what it was about a 50-point pullback last time. And if you're on a minute chart, it looks like sky's falling. But on big picture, this is a healthy market, and I don't see any reason for it
yeah.
to
I mean, I
continue to do what it does and continue these cycles, which is a very bullish cycle. So
yeah, and I think for me on the option side, I look for what's holding up. It is a smaller time frame, and so the movement, it's all more it's more condensed in time. Time is definitely uh, crucial, and you don't to trade the options on it. You don't need coin to hold 180 for 2 weeks. You need to see it hold 180 for an hour, and then you can trade it. But that's a kind of good example. A couple of days ago, I said, "Hey, guess what? We're gonna do that thing again. 200 ain't shit on coin." And
good
then,
call,
it's
P. Good
it,
call,
clo-
P.
it
Nice
closed
note.
it closed the it closed the week at 183,
I love it.
and it bounced off 180. So there was a trade there Friday that you can swing if you hedge the other side, and so crypto's been a little sour over the weekend. So it's possible that weekly put will be the money maker, and then it'll recover back to 180, and we go again. But the point is, the calls had a lot more time to them, and so we talk about grad school trades. That's a grad school
Yeah,
trade,
yeah.
but we got a couple people in the room who are in grad school now, so they do it and they do well at it.
That
So I'm
that
glad to
was
see that.
that was my point. There is like Bitcoin is a perfect example because I think it's your Tesla. When I always talk about, I've seen Tesla's whole story. That's how I know it's so good.
Yeah.
It's your in the long run you're gonna look back and view it the same way. I totally agree with that. But my main point of the coin here is it's the best example we got. We're doing this with or without you guys. I'm sorry. We're doing this
Yeah. Yeah.
because I mean, I say all the time, Professor, keep that coin stuff to yourself. I mean, I'll read it for you, but it's definitely a grad school trade because you see it so clearly because you've traded the whole story.
Yeah. For
But
sure.
yeah, um, but you said boring stuff, and I think
Hmm.
I mean usually do, but not like it's new, but that really fits the where I see the market going with the side, we're gonna get the rate cuts, and it's gonna have some good days and some bad days, and people are gonna get really biased in consolidation, but there'll be sectors or there'll be places that win, and for me, that's the first thing that came to mind was the boring stuff because I mean people don't cut back on salt and soup and toilet paper and you name it when no matter what, that's the last thing you cut out. You're cutting out Red Robin and Chipotle and maybe a trip to Home Depot and Lowe's, but you're not cutting out bread and water.
Yeah, I mean something like so Procter and Gamble incredibly strong,
Dow.
and Dow, and I think Pepsi's in a good spot. I think that Coke, especially probably this week, I'll be getting on that international Coke stock.
Oh
But
yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah. Koki,
but yeah,
isn't it Koki?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, so so stuff like that, so you look at the chart. I'm like, Coke's $72.
We can pull that.
Should have bought it when we talked about it.
Yeah.
I get that, but at the same time, like, uh, that doesn't mean it's just going to drop. The RSI on Coke is a little overheated. It can stay like that for 6 months. So just keep that in mind about some of those. They're they're kind of where people want to be right now, from what I can
I
tell.
didn't buy a lot of those names in the no the September to January thesis because I was definitely looking for not high risk but more risk reward plays. But man,
Yeah,
like Coke, I mean, I do have some Walmart, but like Coke and Walmart, they're up 50% already from like last
how about
November. That's so ridiculous. Like people don't understand how ridiculous that is for those names.
for
It's
for
just,
a company that big? Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
just, well, and structured the way the stock's structured, it's normally like a, 1.5 to 4% a year is just a good year. Either way, just either way on this
yeah.
on the chart. So I mean, Yeah, yeah, crazy stuff.
And how about McCormick's?
Yeah, I got
80
some of that.
bucks.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got some of
Yeah.
that. I'll pull that. I'll pull. I love MKC. They own hot sauces. They're never going out of business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, and you could have got. I mean, I didn't get 60. I'll be honest, I didn't get 60, but I got uppers, and
And
they're doing just fine now. That's more like 25, 30%.
tobacco, don't search the group.
God,
MO and yeah.
no, no. I mean, I go through it every week, and I've looked at. I mean, the bars on Mo are just. It's like, all right, well, I guess we never did get a second entry, but my level, and your call there, and you just wouldn't think that in a chart. I mean, it's not. It's $13. It's 20%, but for the what that stock is, that shouldn't happen. That should just not
Yeah,
happen like that. There is no way. I mean, if that happens, it should have been on the nightly news at some point in time.
right.
I mean, I hate talking. I don't know what news you watch, but nicotine killing COVID or some shit like that, giving you better
Yeah,
testosterone. That's the only
I
news
think
I've heard.
well, yeah, I think there's kind of been a little bit of a nicotine
Pro.
renaissance with the
Yeah,
Zen stuff, and
yeah,
and then just the sort of the not to get political, but a a sort of move back to, like, I don't know, traditional America, and like the cigarette aesthetic and all that stuff, as being uh, there's a kind of nostalgia for that now, and not that like everybody should just start smoking, but it just it shifted culturally
yeah.
back a little bit,
I heard
towards the positive.
that it might help out with testosterone levels too, or some shit like that. I don't
Yeah,
know.
there you go. Yeah,
Check. I'm gonna
and
check with
so
Car. I gotta check with Carlos on that. He's not
yeah,
my medical dictionary, but yeah, there's some stuff that's just basic. So try. I mean, those are like the blue chips, so to speak. I mean,
yeah,
I got lines on those charts, so that tells you something. But there's got to be some regular stuff. I mean, that's why I'll say it here. I'm not scared. Those guys won't find half the charts we're on, but that's why like coffee came up again, is because those. I mean, when you said commodity prices, some of them are through the roof. Well, that's one that's through the roof. So I kind of want to stay there. But I mean, how do you trade butter and corn and all that stuff is another question. Kellogg's
yeah,
cornflakes,
exactly.
lots of
Yeah, I
cornflakes.
mean, there's that. Yeah, be careful trading corn futures, or you'll get a couple pallets of corn showing up at your house.
Let's not do
Uh,
that. Is that how you
yeah,
is that how you get the shares in that? They just send you some corn.
yeah. There's a scenario where you're on the hook to actually buy it
Oh
if you don't do it right. So yeah, yeah,
my.
yeah. So
Wow.
you'll be out in on the side of the road selling corn or something if you if you YOLO incorrectly.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
So what are you watching over there? I mean, what do you really
Well, so
what's coming to view?
yeah. Well, I mean, number one, it's that copper has held up really nicely, and with that sitting in like the 420s, that's important. And then uranium's kind of gearing up for a move, I think, and natural gas as well. So I mean, those are kind of the three. But copper is important as just a market stability um, asset. That you don't want copper to just plummet. It's often a pretty good leading indicator. So the fact that four held and that we're sitting in the 420s, kind of gearing up for a move higher, and then yeah, like groceries and um, grocery stores, I think pretty good. But then rather than dip buying dollar stores, I would look for pullbacks in Target and Walmart, and then get back into those. I think you're better off doing that.
Nice, I like it. What about gas staying in the 70s? I mean, we didn't get into the 80s at all. Pretty much getting through the summer. I mean, you're getting back to school, so that
Yeah.
season's ending. Are we just stable there now? at a decent price with high gas
Um,
prices? Is that how that's working?
yeah,
Because
so
I'm still
we're stable.
380p.
There's a lot of we're stable, and there's a lot of optimism and leaps on on oil. So you're uh, once Exxon gets through 120, um, going like 140, 160, something like that. A little harder to trade that one, but there's others that are going to play catch up that are better to get in, like Devon and um, Cop and a couple others. But yeah, I still really like oil. I think Oxy, you know, same old setup until it decides to make its move, and then it's going to be 70 plus and probably stay up there. So,
Yeah, I think
so that's why I put a note up the other day that I do DCA quite a few oil names and just don't even look at them. I see the bigger picture there. So I don't care if I buy Devon for 44.50 and then it's 42.40 2 days later. It's not that kind of trade. I'll just keep buying it.
I like it. I remember back in the early days of the room, not even this room, that room not to be mentioned. Um, I'd find a stock that would go like 7, 8 cents each direction, and just take the 35, $75 every twice a
Yeah.
day out of it. And if you can find a consolidation trade that you're not greedy with, they're never bad. And I think there was a couple people doing that with Oxy last week, which was good to see because it's a chart you should kind of stay on in general, um, especially at this
Yeah,
price point.
definitely. And I don't know if I mean maybe it's I mean everybody has their little pet peeves um and for me it is that the way people like will not hesitate whatsoever to chase Nvidia or something sexy, some
Sexy,
sexy
yeah.
name like that. But with oil, oil it dropped. Oxy drops 1.5% on some day, and I get a message like, is it done? I mean, what's going on with Oxy? Why is Oxy crashing? It's just like, um, you're just that sector awareness is kind of lacking. And so then I see Twitter people, some of whom I think got it for me, honestly, will say something about sectors, but they're not saying the right thing. It's like
Well, they just learn
they're
the
sort of
word. They
they're
just
just learning
learn.
the word, and but there's no awareness of how those sectors actually operate.
It's funny as hell to me. We've been talking sectors since before we started this Discord. That's for sure, and that's to your credit, because I mean this is kind of how you filter and organize things, and it's been so effective for years now to hear other people finally get it, and then their sector is still it's still the stocks they had before. They're
Yeah,
just bunching them together now. It's just I don't know. Yeah, it's just like it's more marketing than actual understanding what goes on in a sector and how to identify plays in a sector and build a bigger thesis. Which
well they'll talk like healthcare, but you
yes,
won't ever see they won't mention Humana or UNH.
no,
They'll talk like Viking Therapeutics or or something. When that whole group, those Ozempic stocks, I'm on those. I talk about them all the time. LLY, fits the bill there. But that's not that's not your massive. That's not Striker,
mm-mm.
UNH, HUM. It's a different setup entirely. And
It's not even
they're
index.
more
It's not even
right.
BHC.
They're more. I mean, LLY has more in common with Nvidia and Microsoft even than it does UNH.
Sure.
So you don't really have it in that healthcare basket, but it's the one they've heard of, and it's the one that they look at the chart and it's $950, and it's like we're going to 1,200. So yeah, a lot of that. All that's
Yeah.
very funny to me.
Yeah. It's just
That's
interesting.
where I follow Twitter for not only just not what not to trade, but just sort of it's just amusing what they do on
If
there.
anyone has a biocap sector, you better just report them for abusive behavior.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. Yeah, and I didn't even mention that. Yeah, so for healthcare for them is those those bios,
I mean,
for
anyone's got
sure.
a bio
Yeah.
sector, yeah, just
And then and then they'll. I mean, if the ones who think they really got it, they look at the calendar. Biotechs have their presentations and shit like that, and they think they can trade off that. Uh, you're that's pretty that's pretty dangerous stuff to mess with.
hey, we're honest about that. We just learned a long time ago you don't mess with those.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just
They'll
not worth it.
you'll be in shares and you'll get an option style loss overnight with some of those.
That's true. That's true. No, that was one of my. It's one of my pet peeves, and I'm not going to get into it too much today, just because of time. But I'm going to start touching base on it a lot more. Um, it's like if the $300 to $800 option trade feels like a lot to you, it's mentally gonna wreck you when you get to share side because you got to put a little bit. I mean, just not to throw any like crate, but like a good trade. If you put 5K into a good trade and get back 18, 2200, that's a great fucking trade. But you're putting a lot
Yeah.
of money. I mean, it did. If $800 or $300 is bothering you, that shit's you're not sleeping at night. I'm gonna tell you that right now. So you got to kind of. That's the one. That's not a negative about options, but if you're already finicky, you're not building that skill right now.
Well,
Which you're gonna need. You're just gonna need in the long run.
absolutely like very much preach against the small account challenge mentality because I mean, number one, I just think that's the ultimate transparent FinTwit scam setup. Um, Growing your account from $100 to 10,000,
Oh
it
yeah,
just
yeah.
doesn't work that way, And so I think what you have to do instead, I don't think you just you know load up a $10,000 account and start going crazy pressing buttons, but you have to get consistent making $50 on trades,
Yes.
and then you have a career and you put money into your account and you trade with that and you find a way to do that works for you where you reset it every month or whatever it is you do, different baskets and different types of trades and stuff like that, but that you put your own money into it. You're basically you're starting, this is my trading business I'm going to do, and I'm going to fund myself, and then I'm not going to lose that money. I'm going to you know be safe with it, um, and go from there. But it's a lot of people do grow from 1,800 bucks to 7,000, but then they'll lose it. Happens constantly. You can tell when that happens on Twitter. It's very obvious to those people. So
It's a
you just don't want
lot.
to live like that.
It's a lot like swimming. When you if I dump you in the middle of the lake, you're not worried about how high you can get. You're just trying to keep your head up. You're not trying to go
Yeah,
down. And if you
exactly.
really look at your
Yeah.
portfolio or your trades like that, if you just manage the backside, if you master that, the top side will kind of take care of itself. It really will. If you just have good risk management, um, wrong. I mean, I don't say it's half as much as I used to or I should, but it's just better to be wrong early. It really is better to be
Uh,
wrong early in trades, and
uh,
you can re-enter as the next part of that.
I mean, it's not a coincidence. Our room is, yeah, it's a smaller room, and it's Gen X or older millennial guys who have careers and want to get into trading. Our style and our approach, uh, it's not attractive to guys who pay extra for their car insurance. Because the reason they're paying more for their car insurance demographically, is because take more risk, not as careful, want the big score, gambling mentality. They got the sports betting apps too, and they just see trading as another manifestation of that kind of gambling, and that doesn't really work as your bread and butter. Um, and I've tried, like, earnings are big risk reward. I've tried to teach it in a way that it's not going to give you a bad day the next day, even if it doesn't go your way. It's just kind of like, oh well. And then often the ones that don't work, I just trade the aftermath the next day and do fine. But um, but yeah, and that's why our room's not 1,000 people. We're not good at social media, and we don't have a style that attracts those kind of numbers, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm fine. Hey, we got some working class moms in here too that
Yeah, there you go.
that
Yeah, yeah.
understand the value of a dollar. I think that's a common denominator. Welcome back, Kayla. That just
Yeah.
basically have 7 or 8 different hustles, and this is one of them. And they figure out how to use it, and they the one common denominator with them is they are not greedy. They are not. They have a value of a dollar probably better than me.
Um, yeah, and I think that being not greedy psychologically. I mean, especially with options, you have to understand, and you will see it so much that. So I buy a contract for $500. I sell it for $700. If you look back 2 days later, that thing might be $3,000,
Can't do
but
that. Yeah.
it dipped to 300 first.
Yeah.
So you would have lost all the profit that you made, and then so that's why I mean you can re-enter or you know leave a runner. I mean I talk about all the time like a runner to me is I had five or I had 10. It did well. There's one that's free and then some, and I'll just let it go, and then we'll go from and but it should actually be running. It shouldn't be I bought one contract and I'm going to hold and hope all week. Um,
If
because you can
you got
on
to do
those
Pele. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
those option charts, you can see theta decay on those option charts.
Yes. Yeah. If you want to, if you're busy, man, you got to do the dead cat Pele. The way Pele does it, he just puts money in something that ain't moving. He comes back and he's like, "Look, it moved. I'm gonna take this money." It's
Yeah,
just real
exactly.
basic,
Yeah,
and um,
yeah.
especially with your kind of boring commodity read plays, find a lot of grinders that are just real easy to do that. But let's kind of rotate into spy a little bit. I mean, I think that's where we are. You're seeing this 565 kind of be a little bit of a resistance P. I mean, you really have you seen the last about month and a half. That's been the two
Yeah.
tops, the double top, the two tops, the head and
Yeah, yeah,
shoulders,
yeah.
the inverse bear flag, the ABCDA pattern, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, P. It just looks like there's a problem at 565.
Yeah. And there isn't that option buy to punch it through in SPY or SPX. It just creeps up there, and then they sell out of the calls, and then that's it. But it's not aggressive puts either. It's just gonna, which is why the pullbacks aren't sustaining any move down.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's just
we had you had 66 and I had 68 and we got 64, so it really didn't get as high. It didn't break out. I think we were a little more bearish or bullish last week just because of Nvidia getting people interested in the market. That slow start to the week, though, we never really got running. And then the downside was 555. I had 52 and you had 49. So, I mean, we definitely stayed inside the box that we thought. A couple dollars to each side, but consolidation was definitely the overall idea.
yeah, it was, and so I think I mean if you are an ETF trader, I think QQQ is probably better uh, as far as your volatility goes, just because Nvidia is such a big chunk there. But even with that, I brought it up that night of Nvidia earnings. Apple was up 1.5%. Apple didn't do anything. Oh, they got
Yeah.
new iPhones coming out. I mean, whatever. But no, it was just to keep the market at that kind of equilibrium. Those market makers. It's like Vegas setting a line. They want money on both sides, and so that's what they're that's what they're trying. They're just they're propping it up, plunge protection team or whatever terms those people use. That's why you're not getting the big sell, and I think that's gonna continue.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think they have to hold the market up here for several reasons. I mean, I don't see a big flush, even though again the pullback on the minute charts are going to look like a big flush. Um, I don't think we like run fast into rates, and I do think we get a little bit of a you know a the cup and handle crap. We get a little bit of a
Yeah.
pullback, but I don't think it's going to be deeper than we've already went. I mean, five. We have a $50. We had a $50 spread on SPY. You know, this is 510, and we're 565. Yeah, so 45, $50. That $20 pullback is still gonna feel bad here, and I just think we get that sometime. I think we get that the week of or the week after rate cuts. That's what I think. So I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
but we're not gonna go to all time highs before that, and if we do, it's just for a day or two, and we're not gonna
Yep.
have super down days, but we're gonna have super slow volume days, and um, playing consolidation is hard on ETFs. I'm with you on that. Shout out to Pele. He does it better than anyone I know. Um, he when he gets range bound, that guy can pick levels, especially on
Yeah.
SPY. But I think the preloading you'll still see in those individual names, and that's kind of where I lean on you because when you don't have a lot of activity, if volume comes in on my side, it's literally the someone knows already, right? And you kind of not necessarily the secondary move, but you're not early. You're just on the first team. But when your reads come in with the 1-2 punch, you can be about 2 or 3 weeks early and get some pretty good buys, and that's what I'm looking for right now. So a lot of jabs
Yeah.
for me in the overall market until then. I mean, I'm sure you noticed my list this week. I don't normally. I mean, I got two stocks that are huge in terms of shares and price, but I'm looking for where
Yeah.
the action is in the market.
Um, yeah. No, I'm looking for that as well. I can give you a couple numbers on SPY. I will say that
Yeah,
that um that 500p December, the one that I'm looking to have a companion or something. That one's kind of flip bid side, so they're sort of backing out of that contract. So whatever the setup, I might not even have one punch now. There's nothing. So I
nothing
just got to
down.
like, yeah, there's nothing down, and there's nothing up either as far as all the open interest. The puts dominate the open interest, but a lot of them are sold. So that's how that works. Yeah, so I need something bigger, big picture there. But in terms of like the short term, I've got I'm gonna say 552.97 for my downside and 564.46 upside. So I think we go down first and then creep back up maybe.
Nice. What you have last week? So yeah, so you're up around where I was last week on the bottom. So real similar on the range. It's hard. Levels are hard. Top side damn near impossible here. Um, and then downside not as hard on the downside, but I'm gonna go with this. I think we just have another tight bar. I don't think we flush as low this week, Pete. I really don't. And that was 55. Yeah, so I'm gonna stay there. I'm gonna go 550, 556, 69. Shout out Goose and topside. That UF 64 is interesting to me because um, that's basically the where we're at. It's like we're hitting the ceiling here, is what you're saying. So
Yeah.
for me to go above it is foolish. The only thing I don't like is that we're a dollar away from that. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of go to a numeric range there. You have a $12 spread, which I agree that we're going to have a pretty big candle this week. So if I just use that same formula, that puts me at 68. So I mean, I can flirt a little with that. So I'm just gonna go, and I've never done this one before. So we're gonna go 566.69. So I'm just gonna have a straight $10 range on
Yeah.
SPY
There
on
you go.
SPY this week, and I think that 66, like you're saying, it really doesn't last, or we just finish there on some euphoria. And if we do, to be honest with you, I'm playing Bitcoin chart. If that's the case, I'm playing Bitcoin
Yeah,
charts because to get to that euphoria, I think that thing's gonna run too. It would be like that kind of just every. Why is gold, Bitcoin in the market pushing into the weekend?
yeah.
Um,
Well, and the way the cryptos has pulled back,
yeah,
room for a run to 60, even though it's like, okay, 60K again for the 20th time. But if you have that range to that, that's a good place to be in trades rather than I need Bitcoin to go to 72,000 for my Mara 30C to work for me. That's not how you trade crypto.
yeah. The only thing I would throw out as a caveat though is if these guys stay on a week of extra vacation, it's gonna be slow. And that might slow this thesis down, and we might be talking the same thing next week when we get a full week. But just with how slow it was last week, we're the first of the month. I think we pick up a little bit sooner than next week with the volume
Yeah,
because I don't know on your end, but man, like volume was bad last week. It was not good.
I kind of wonder if there is something to this of so the vacation idea, when you've got maybe more of your junior traders at the control panel, you can see some goofy shit happen.
Sure,
in
sure.
so the so yeah, there's gonna be a little bit of that. I still very much feel like don't chase puts, don't chase calls, with don't chase puts being the big emphasis.
Yeah,
That is kind of where my pre market notes will sort of be there as well.
perfect. Well, you ready to get to work, P?
Yeah, yeah, I'm good. And I got my coffee already, so
Perfect,
I mean we can take a little break, but I don't need a long break.
perfect. Like and subscribe for more. Link somewhere.